Let's now shift our attention to what is happening in Israel, where an Israeli minister on Monday called for the return of the Jewish settlers to Gaza and said that Palestinians should be encouraged to emigrate, a day after similar remarks had been made by another far-right politician. Now remember, Israel unilaterally had withdrawn the last of its troops and settlers in 2005, and the 2000 move had ended an Israeli presence inside of the Gaza Strip that had begun in 1967. But Israel had maintained complete control of the Gaza enclave's border. So nothing could be brought in and nothing could be taken out without the express permission of Israel. Now, Israel's firebrand National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has said, and I quote him here, "We must promote a solution to encourage the emigration of Gaza's residents." Now, the government under Prime Minister Netanyahu has not officially suggested it has any plans to evict the Gazans or to send Jewish settlers into the territory, but Ben-Gvir has argued that the departure of Palestinians and the influx of the Israelis into the occupied Palestinian territory is a correct, just, moral and a humane solution, according to him. Hamas has rubbished Ben-Gvir's proposals as nothing but a daydream. In a statement, the Islamist group said, "You will not find a way to implement it in the face of our resilient, steadfast Palestinian people in their heroic resistance." Now, Ben-Gvir's comments have come a day after the far-right finance minister Bezalel Smotrich had called for the return of Israeli settlers into Gaza. Now, the minister stated that Israel should encourage the territory's approximately 2.4 million Palestinians to leave. Smotrich said that for Israel to control the territory militarily for a long time, they also need civilian presence. Now, both Ben-Gvir and Smotrich live in settlements in the West Bank considered illegal under international law and according to the United Nations. Now, Hamas has condemned Smotrich's comments as vile mockery and a war crime and a clear-cut example of what settler colonialism is. The 7th of October attack left about 1,100 people dead in Israel's including civilians and soldiers. And according to Gaza's officials, Israel's ongoing offensive that is aimed at destroying Hamas has killed well over 21,000 Palestinian people in Gaza, majority of them young women and children. With heavy combat raging on, the United Nations has said that 85% of the people in the besieged Gaza Strip have been internally uprooted from their homes and have been displaced. For Palestinians, the war has, of course, revived the horrific memories of their greatest trauma. Hundreds of thousands of people, remember, had fled or were forced to flee from their homes during the fighting surrounding Israel's creation, where the Palestinians had been expelled from their homes to create this new nation of Israel in 1948. Now, the minister's remarks have once again put the spotlight on long-standing Egyptian fears that Israel wants to make Gaza into an Egyptian problem by expelling all Palestinians. And Egypt has made it clear throughout this latest war that it does not want to take in a wave of Palestinian refugees. Egypt has long feared that Israel wants to force some kind of a permanent expulsion of the Palestinian people from their territory, as happened during the 1948 war. Now, Egypt had ruled Gaza between 1948 and 1967 when Israel captured the territory along with the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The vast majority of Gaza's population are descendants of Palestinian refugees who had already been expelled and evicted from Israel. And Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has said that a mass influx of refugees from Gaza would in fact eliminate the Palestinian nationalist cause. And also to give us more insight into this, we are joined by India's former ambassador to Israel and the United States. Mr. Arun Singh is joining us live from Delhi. Now, Ambassador Singh, this is a proposal that's been put forth by the Israeli Internal Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, where he wants Israeli settlers to be sent into Gaza Strip to populate them there. What do you make of this interesting proposal by him?
I wouldn't call it a proposal. And this kind of view sentiment has been articulated also earlier. Earlier, of course, more in the context of the West Bank, now Gaza. Now, this is the sentiment in a very small minority, right-wing minority in Israel. Does not necessarily command wide popular support in Israel. Although this section of the political opinion is at the moment part of the power structure. But this kind of a viewpoint, as you indicated, will not get any support in the Arab countries, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and others. It will not find any support in Europe. It will not even find support in the United States. And of course, it would be opposed by the Palestinians, including those living in Gaza. And the United States has said clearly that it does not support at this stage any redrawing of the boundaries of Gaza, any eviction of those living in Gaza, any settlements in Gaza. So that's their position. And so if Israel were to go ahead along this path, the first challenge they will find is that there will be enhanced resistance from the wider Palestinian population living in Gaza. Also, there has been widespread destruction in Gaza, and a lot of money will be required after active conflict for reconstruction effort. And nobody will step forward, neither the other Arab countries nor the European countries, if they see that a reversal is happening in the Israeli position and there is no forward movement towards any kind of a settlement of the Israel-Palestine issue. And this kind of fresh settlement activity would be seen as a further setback to any thought of a two-state solution.
Right.
Now, some argue in Israel that two-state solution is not possible. You eventually should need to work for one state. But others argue that if Israel wants to be a Jewish state and a democratic state, it needs a two-state solution. Right. Otherwise, the population of the Jewish people in Israel would be the same as the population of the non-Jewish people. And then you cannot have a Jewish state if it is a democratic state. So that's an internal contradiction that they have to resolve themselves. So I would say that it's something that could exacerbate the situation right now. But certainly it's an opinion articulated by a section of the people in Israel, including among the political leaders.
Right. Ambassador, you've brought up some very interesting contradictions in terms of this two-state solution, one-state solution, what happens to the Palestinians and the illegal Israeli settlements on occupied Palestinian territories. The question that I want to ask you is, for a two-state viable solution to actually happen, what should become of these illegal Israeli settlements that have just cropped up and mushroomed up on Palestinian lands?
So that's the difficult challenge. As you indicated in your own comments, in 2005, Israel had pulled out the settlements that they were there in Gaza. At that time, there were 5,000 odd Israeli settlers living in Gaza. And Israel had found it very difficult, and in terms of the domestic politics, a wrenching effort to take these people out of Gaza. And logistically also, the army had to play a difficult role. People were just refusing to move. Now you have 500,000 Israeli settlers living in the West Bank.
True.
So physically, in terms of the current situation, for Israel to relocate all 500,000 people from West Bank and East Jerusalem to what is internationally recognized as Israeli territory is going to be very, very difficult. So many have argued that leaders of Israel, leaders in Palestinian areas have to find a way out of this situation where new facts on the ground have been created post-1967. And if neither side is willing to compromise on their established positions, a solution would be difficult. So I think in terms, earlier also Israel had offered to the Palestinian leaders that 4% or 6% of West Bank territory could be kept in Israel, where the settlements are concentrated. And the rest, could be part of a Palestinian state. But for the Palestinian leadership to accept that kind of a position would be seen as compromising. And domestically, they would be undermined. So it's a difficult position. But eventually, it's the people of Israel, the Palestinian leaders who have to, along with support of the international communities, look at finding some creative way that works for both people.
Absolutely. I think you've summed it up really well there. Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador Singh, for joining us with that perspective. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.